I would like to thank Lois and Gina and everybody that invited me to be here. Of course, Sister Rosemary, too. She asked you to do something, and that's the great thing about Sister Rosemary. You never say no to Sister Rosemary. That's funny. So Lois asked me, I have a bio on the anchor page at CBS, and she read a little bit of it, some of the awards and some of the things I covered, and she's like, can you make it more personal? And so I left all that stuff out, and of course she added some of it. But the Rob Johnson Day in Illinois, 7 years ago, September 22nd, it's a running family joke. The year after that happened, it happened to be September 22nd, and I was at a friend's restaurant, and he had menus made up specifically for Rob Johnson Day. That was in 2012. And so we just decided, so my wife's birthday is the 20th, my dad's birthday is the 21st, and I was married on the 23rd of September, and so September 22nd, we're like, hey, we're going to celebrate Rob Johnson Day every year, even though it was only a one-time thing. So we have a little fun with that. So I would like to present to you Team Johnson. I had the best opportunity for years. I have talked about my brother and my family and everybody behind me here, and they were always mythical characters. I think people knew my wife and my son Jaden, who are in the front row right there. They would see them around, but my son plays hockey and he's gone a lot, so I would come to a lot of these events on my own. But they never heard about my mom and my dad. I mean, they heard about them, they never saw them. The people that set the tone for me and my youngest brother Andrew, who's missing from this picture, but he should be there because he's been on that journey with us the entire time as well. And it was so gratifying for the 50th anniversary of Special Olympics this year. We had the gala in the spring. Some of you might have been in the room. I know Sister Rosemary was. And I got to bring up Team Johnson, and there they are, my mom and my brother Edward, my father Don, and these are the people that have really shaped this journey for me. And so to be able to go on stage with them at the Hilton in front of, 800 or 1,000 people, and say, here are the people that mean the most to me. Here are the people that have been on the journey with me. Here's the guy that's the reason I'm on the journey. There was nothing greater. And I just told Sister Rosemary this tonight. My father told me that maybe the next day. He said, it's too bad Andrew wasn't here, my youngest brother. He said, but I think that might have been one of the greatest moments our family has ever had. And that meant so much to me. All of them, Team Johnson, coming up on stage and me giving them the accolades that they deserve. And the reason they deserve accolades is because Edward taught us more about respect and love than anybody else, I think, could. We would have been a great family if Edward hadn't had Down syndrome. But the fact that he was so, and still is, innocent and loving and pure and just a good guy. And I think that's the same weekend. There he is. We always say to Edward, don't smile. Don't smile. Because when he smiles, he does that. And when he doesn't smile, he looks, fine. There he is with Stacy. He loves Stacy. He will call the house on occasion. And if I pick up, he will politely talk to me. Like, hey, Robert, how are you? It's hard to understand him. His verbal skills aren't what they used to be, but I can understand most of it. And then for some reason, years ago, he called Stacy, hey, girl. So he would politely talk to me for 30 seconds at most, and then he's like, where's hey, girl? I'll get her, Edward, I'll get her. So anyway, his journey is our journey, and I think I can do this. Oh, yeah, I can do this. This is even better. I think about what he has meant to our family and what the decisions we made. We're together for choice here. We're here to give people with all sorts of intellectual and developmental disabilities the opportunities and the options in life. And for each one of them, like my brother, there may be something that's better for them than it is for somebody else. When I first moved to Chicago and I knew there was a place like Misericordia that had a place for so many people like my brother to go, where it was going to be like this cocoon of love and support and everything else, I just thought, man, this is about the greatest thing I've ever heard. I wish my brother had it. Well, he has had the opportunity to, in Little Rock, Arkansas, which is where my family lives. Everybody's there except for Stacy, Jaden, and myself. He lives at a 10-bed Easter Seals facility. So growing up, we lived in St. Louis. We Actually, when I was 13, we moved overseas to Brussels, Belgium. And I remember before we moved there in St. Louis, my parents were always like, to my youngest brother and me, they said, people are going to stare. People are going to, maybe they're going to say things. And you know what? We're going to live our lives. And so when we moved to Brussels, and then we had the opportunity to travel all over the world, literally all over the world, I mean, we went everywhere. We did everything. We experienced everything you could experience if you were in that sort of environment. And it was a blessing for our entire family. But that was what my parents did. And when I was in high school at the International School of Brussels, it's this beautiful 75-acre campus, wooded campus. There's an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school on this campus. And so I was in high school. My youngest brother, Andrew, was in elementary school at the time, but he was bigger than everybody. And they started a special education program for Edward. And so he got the opportunity to be the first student of the special education program, which still exists to this day. And we were able to protect him. We were able to set the tone. I was able to set the tone with my buddies and me, that kind of ran the high school. And my youngest brother, Andy, was able to set the tone for all of his friends in elementary school. And it was such a wonderful environment for him. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know if he remembers everything, but if Edward had to say, I bet he would say that was probably the best time of his life, because people would see him along, walking down the sidewalk on campus and be like, Edward, how you doing, buddy? How are you? My friends, Andy's friends, I mean, everybody set the tone, and we let everybody know that this was a place of respect, and this is how he was going to be treated. This is the mid-'80s. So we weren't as far along then as we are now. I'm glad we've come a long way. But I was very proud of my family. I'm very proud of my father asking the superintendent, hey, you need to start a special education program. So after Brussels, I go to college. My family moves to Little Rock, Arkansas. So I'm not from there. They are. He goes to just a regular high school, and he's mainstreamed. He's incorporated in the high school. There's a special class, but he's part of a regular high school. But no longer could my youngest brother and I watch over him and care for him. And I'm hoping people were respectful. I cringe to think that, in the event that they weren't. And so when he turns 21, 22, and he's graduated, what do? Well, that's a big decision. In our family, Edward saw that I moved out and went to college. He saw that Andy moved out and went to college. And so when my parents said, should we have him live with us? Edward's like, nope, I'm moving out. He was moving out. He wanted no part of living at home with mom and dad, because that wasn't cool anymore. Now, he's 10 minutes away. So he's, for the past 25 years, he's going to be 47 in December. The past 25 years, he's lived at a 10-bed Easter Seals facility, 10 minutes from my parents' house. Every other weekend, he gets to come home. And so for 11 out of 14 days, he's actually on a good, strict diet that he needs to be on. And then for 3 days, my parents let him eat whatever he wants to. Oh, you want 2 sausage biscuits and pizza and a burger today? That seems all right with me. And I would say to my mom, when Edward turned around 40, I say, like, Mom, don't you want to be healthier? I mean, you just let him eat anything here. I mean, he just gorges himself. And she said, it's the one thing in his life that gives him so much happiness. Why would I strip his quality of life away from him? And I thought, well, from the health standpoint, I don't agree with that. But from a quality of life standpoint, I do agree with that. Anyway, long story short, at the Easter Seals facility, Mom and Dad, just can you rein it in a little? Can you please rein it in a little? So they have. He's in good shape. And this Easter Seals facility, it's right for him. And there's people with all sorts of disabilities that are there, not just intellectual, but developmental as well. And he's got friends, and he's got people that he loves, that love him. And they will go on field trips, and they'll go to dances, and there's a work center across the parking lot in this neighborhood. There's not enough work. They'll get a contract for 6 months to package DVDs or something, and then the company figures they can take the job overseas for a fraction of the cost. So there's not enough work there, but it's good for him. And he feels like he's part of something special, and he can go and be with his friends and be with the folks that work there who are like family to him. And it's quasi-independent living because the people that are there are a little bit more severe, like my brother. And so they have their own rooms. They have their own rooms, so they have their own independence, even though there's somebody looking over them and doing that sort of thing. But I'm so thankful for this place because for my brother, when he moved out of the house 25 years ago, that was an option, and that ended up being the right thing for him. Would Misericordia have been the right thing for him? I'm sure we would have made it work. If there was a behemoth like Misericordia in Little Rock, I'm sure a lot of people would have taken advantage of it. What a great thing to have in your community, in our community. And but there's not a lot of Misericordias. And there's also the idea that whether it's employment or whether it's where you live and what you do, we want to include the people with disabilities in the community. I love seeing people at, say, a grocery store or doing various jobs at a store here or there, because that means somebody at maybe the top said, hey, we're gonna hire anybody, and we're gonna hire them and we're gonna show them respect, and that's great for people in the community to see, even if, and I never took it personally when people stared, because I was like, they don't really have the understanding. I'm here to educate them. So this is why once I had a microphone in my hand in my career and I had the ability to have a little bit of a bully pulpit, I started doing things like this because I figured, I don't think anybody's fallen asleep yet, but this is a really loud microphone. Not yet, nobody's fallen asleep, but I figured they would listen to this story, and for some people it may be your story. It may really resonate with you, and you may say, yeah, I get it. I've gone through that. My family's gone through that. And then for other people, I figured I would educate them, and they would say, yeah, there's nothing to be scared about if you see my brother. I mean, he's a sweet kid. He's not a kid, but I think of him as a kid. And so this is a great opportunity when we talk about Together for Choice, when we talk about what's right for everybody. There's not one size fits all. There's not one path that's best for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. It's all over. Thank you. I know, for instance, we've talked about UCP Seguin a little bit because that's one of the places I received an award from, and the gentleman in the back who's running the audio-visual, we met at UCP Seguin, and they're big into the smaller, the houses and that sort of thing, 3, 4, 5, 6 people living in a house in a community. And if you've ever endeavored to make that work, that's an uphill battle too, because people think, oh my gosh, we're going to rent this house out to UCP Seguin or somebody else, and they're going to be in our community. What's going to happen? Well, nothing's going to happen. Of course nothing's going to happen. That is part of the education process. I feel like the more I know about this and the more I share with people, this is so great to be in front of all of you. But tomorrow I'm going to wake up and somebody's going to say something silly and it's going to be offensive and they're not going to get it, and I'm going to say, man, this work never ends. Because you know what? This work never ends. Amen? So this is always great because I love preaching to the choir. I'm preaching to the choir right now. I dare say there's anybody in this room that's going to get up and use offensive words or not get it or say this is all doesn't make any sense, because I think everybody knows this makes sense. But what I will tell you, because we are the choir, I would tell you that don't get down. There's a lot of days where you're like, man, got a long way to go. I had a great day. You may walk out of here, this is going through Friday, right? You may walk out of here Friday, 3 days, 2.5 days of just, good solid conversation and discussion and everything else, and you may fly out of here on Friday. And then Saturday, somebody might do something and you just shake your head and go, boy, I got a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do, and that's why I wanted to be here with you all tonight, to talk about choice, to talk about opportunity, no matter what we're talking about, whether we're talking about living situation or work or whatever it may be, that anything where we can put these wonderful souls in front of the community and say, here they are, and we change minds, and we change ideas, and it is at a glacial pace sometimes, but it will happen. We're making it happen. And I would just say one of the things Lois referenced was the North Shore Special Education District when she was introducing me. And I was talking to a friend last night at dinner, Richard Price from Mesereau Financial, and he's working on something where he's getting some people from the community to go into these schools and to really preach inclusion, to really drive home that point. And I mentioned to him, I said, boy, every time I go to the North Shore Special Education District, they get it. I go to schools, I talk to kids and to parents and to teachers, and the idea of inclusion, the idea of, yes, we're all together, is such an important message to send. At the Special Olympics Illinois level, we had the Unified Games as a highlight of the 50th celebration this past summer here. We didn't have 500 sports. We had soccer, and it was people with and without disabilities playing together from all over the world. We had teams from all over the world here, but they were playing soccer. And it was somebody without a disability right next to somebody with a disability, and they were on the field together. And that is about inclusion. That is the message that we need to drive home to everybody, is that they are meant and they should be included in everything in our society. Whether, like I said, it's where they live, it's where they hang out, it's where they work, because only then are we going to make this a better society. If we lift up everybody in our community, Chicago is only as good as somebody who may be the most vulnerable, whether it's a small child, whether it's somebody with a disability who doesn't have opportunity, and choice are just so vital. The world has changed so much since 1971, when I think a lot of people may have just hid people like my brother in a room. We're not going out of the house. We're not going to do this or that. My mom and dad are like, we're going. Here we go. And we did. And because of that experience, back when it wasn't the buzzword or the thing to do, we're here where we are now. My parents set the tone for me. I've set the tone with my family. I try to set the tone in the community and give this movement swagger, because we are very polite. I say this all the time. The disability community is one of the nicest group of people you will ever meet. But when faced with people who are disrespectful by using the words that we all know and hate, we got to have a little swagger. We got to be like, what are you talking about? What are you doing? Why are you doing that? You don't have to go punch him in the face, but it's okay to be a little critical. You don't need to cause a scene or whatever, but it's okay to be a little like, hey, come on, show some respect, because we're really nice. And that's one of the greatest things about us. And that's the way to get things done most of the time. And some of the time, you have to use a little sandpaper to get the message across. And I'm not afraid to use a little sandpaper. I don't use it all the time. But when it comes to making sure that the next generation, the kids that are coming up, the families that have people with disabilities, no matter what they are, I want to make sure they have it way easier than my family had it. And my family had it pretty darn good, because my parents, I don't know why, I actually did a thesis on this my senior year of college. Like, what gave you this swagger? What gave you, what in the world were you thinking, just acting like everything was okay? And they just said, because it's our family. And are my parents more remarkable than any of you? Probably not. But people say, how can you do that? How did you do that? Well, no matter what the situation is in your family, you can either feel sorry for yourself or you can move forward and be excellent. And my parents decided, because that's who they were, this is what we're going to do. And that's why this is what I do. And that's why I believe in choice, and I believe in opportunity, and I believe in lifting these wonderful people up and making them part of this community and make them seen and make them heard. Nothing gives me greater pleasure right now at Special Olympics Illinois to see a couple of global ambassadors who are on our board, who are young adults with disabilities, who are front and center at Special Olympics. You know who the star of the show is? The athletes. They're the star of the show. The rest of us, business people and board members and whatever, we stand back because it's all about them. And it's not only for Special Olympics, It's for any organization. It's for any group. It's for Misericordia. It's for any other group that you're coming from to be part of this special 3 days. This is so important, and they're the star of the show. And so let's get out there and make them the star of the show. Thank you very much. God bless you all.